All right, we're getting so close to finishing this thing. So I put off edit last time. Feel bad about that. Let's do edit. So when you click on edit, right now it says just edit. If I clicked on delete, it really would work. So let's just go ahead and implement edit. So what edit is going to do is edit is going to show that dialog. So let's be smart about this. Oh, I forgot to check in some things. So this was password remove. What I forgot to check in last time. By the way, every so often you should ship it to the cloud as well. Looks like my cloud is 12 behind, so now it's 12 things shipped to the cloud. So what I want to do is I want it to be similar to that fab button that got clicked. And that fab button, when we clicked it, it did these things, right? So it showed the dialog, and it did it by saying this .dialog. So it used this MD dialog thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these 3 lines, and I'm going to use them as kind of like my starting point for my password display card. So edit right here has these 3 lines. I'm going to start making them a little bit happier. So first thing I want to do is I want to add a private dialog, which is an MD dialog, import MD dialog, which of course it didn't help me type, but it looks like it will help me import it. And then dialog config, we're going to need one of those, so import that as well. Password dialog component, we're going to have to import that as well. So lots of imports there, but it looks like it's working fine. So with what we have now, I could click it and it would show a dialog. I guess maybe I could do that. And so as soon as it finishes recompiling, so if I hit edit, it pops up my dialog. But to be honest, this dialog, it's still really doing add, right? And so it can be used to launch add. That's not really our goal. Our goal is to pass in more information so that he knows that this is an edit. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pass in a password. And the password that we're going to pass in is this .password. Again, I could probably have called this something slightly different. I could call it like password to edit or something like that. But I'm just going to keep it simple and say password. If you want to put on a trailing comma, you could. Doesn't really matter there. And so now my other end might receive a password. It might not. And if it receives a password, it knows that it's an edit. If it doesn't receive a password, it must have been the fab that sent it over. So let's go to the receiving side. So come over here. And over here, we're receiving a password. And so you can put this either in the constructor or within on an edit. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to say, hey, if this .dialog data has a password, and it's yelling at me because dialog data follows this interface, and it says, hey, it never has a password. So we're going to fix that. And we're just going to say, hey, you might, have a password. And it looks like it's already imported password, so I already knew where to get that from. So if it does have a password, then we want to do a couple of things. One is we want to auto-populate the fields, and also when we submit it, we want to take a different route. So let's do it the simple way first, which won't quite work. And so what that is we're just going to take the password that was passed in and just set it to the form password. And then just kind of as a really quick test, we're going to just print out the 2. So we're going to print out the form password, and then also this dialog data password. And I'm of course going to do that in the different order. So I'm going to do that and then there. And I'm going to see if they're different before. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to see if they're different after. I'll just be very verbose with my logs. So now whenever I click on this guy, so I'll say edit. And it pops it up, and it auto-populated the fields, which is good. And you can see that it had kind of like the form before was blank, and then the thing that I passed in has a password, a service, a username. Then it's also got this key and this exist. And then after, they both have it, right? So now they've both got everything. The thing that I don't like about this is if I say like a bunch of numbers on here, you can see it's typing them in the background. And then if I hit cancel, they're all still there. And so we did one thing that I didn't want to do, and that was we pointed them to the same object. And I didn't really want to point them at the same object, because if you hit cancel, you're kind of modifying the object, and you wanted to cancel. So here's what we're going to do. Instead of saying that one equals the other, we're going to use another trick, which is object.assign. And what we're going to do is we're going to assign one to the other. Now, what assign does that's different. So I'm going to say assign things from here into here is how this works. The thing that's slightly different is that it only assigns what's called the has own property. So like the first layer properties, and it doesn't copy on second layer properties. And that actually works out perfect, because there's this $key that doesn't get copied over. So you can see that the $key was on the dialog data one, but not on the other one, and that works out great. And also it's pointing at two different objects now. So now if I change this one, so if I just put like a bunch of random gibberish on here and I hit cancel, nothing bad happened. Cool, so that was good. I'm really happy about how that worked out. The downside is let's say I edit this right now and I say Googlefly 2 and I hit save. You can see that it actually just added another one, and that was not the goal, so I'm going to remove that one. And the reason it added another one is because when you get to submit, it has no idea that this was an edit, right? There's no information in here that tells it that it's an edit. So what we need to do is we need to have some if statement. So we're going to say like if something, and then, you know, in one case it's going to be an edit, and then the other case it's going to be a push, right? So I'm telling you what, I'm going to go ahead and put push in the bottom here. And what I need to do is I need to figure out what is that if statement, and then also how do I do an edit, right? So I'm going to have to figure out both of those things. And in order to do an edit, you need that key, right? So somehow we need to get that key. So what I'm going to do, and there's a bunch of ways to do it. I could actually make this my if statement. So if I've got a password in the dialog data, and I can do that, that'll be fine. Then we're going to use its key to edit. Another thing we could have done, I think this is what I did in my notes, is I actually just saved off the key into another field, but I can do it this way as well. That's fine. So if the dialog data came in with a password, then I'm going to use it to do an edit. And here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say firebase.database.ref dialog data firebase path .child. And the child that I want is this dialog data password $key. And this is getting verbose enough that we probably should save some things off. So let's just save off a Firebase path, and we'll just save off, we'll save off a Firebase ref is what we'll save off. And so this part was shared on both of them. So we'll just grab that. We'll say Firebase ref dot. So that's going to just make it a little bit more manageable. So in one case, we're going to say .child.set, and we're going to set it to this .form password. And then in the other case, we're going to push it. So it's either going to be a set of a certain child, or it's going to be a push. So those are going to be the two things that we're going to do. Let's try this guy out. So now I've got one over here, and I'm going to say edit, and I'm going to change him to Spectrum. And I'm going to change my username to FisherDS, but I'll leave the password alone just to see if that works. And sure enough, it changed to Spectrum, it changed to FisherDS, and I changed my password. If I were to go look at my database, there'd be no surprises over here. It actually did the edit. So it went into users, Fisher, that key, and then it did a set to those new values. So that was fantastic. The only thing I want to change now is I don't really like that it says add up here when it's an edit, so I want to fix that. And that'll be pretty easy to do. So what we want to do is in the HTML, right now it's hard-coded to this, so I'm going to cut this out, put it on my clipboard. I'm going to make a new variable called title. And over here I'm going to set my title. I'm just going to say title equals, and I'm going to set it to that as the default. But if I've got a password, then I'm going to say this dot title equals edit this password. So now my title will change. So by default, it'll be add a password, but if there is dialog data password, then I'm going to change it to edit this password. So now if I click on this guy and I hit edit, you can see it says edit this password. So if I say 2 and hit save, and then if I hit add, you can see it says add a password, and so I could add a new gibberish password. I can still remove things, which works out fine. And if I hit edit here, you know, it says edit this password, and everything is working like rose petals. So my changes, HTML, I made the title change. You could also change the word save, but I think save was fine. Title's all I really wanted to change. My dialog data, I might receive a password, is what I said here. And if I did receive a password, I'm sorry, wrong area. That's my setting my title to default. And if I did receive a password, then I wanted to do these things. Don't really think I need my logs anymore, so I'll just go ahead and kill those logs. Making sure to save it. And then when I submit it, I either do a push or I do a .child set. And it just depends on whether I received a password or not. And then this is over in the display card. I showed, what did I do? Oh, I added the dialog to launch the dialog and pass him in a password. Great, so that is edit. Edit is done. And that actually means that our app is done as well. Just to kind of keep things distinct, I'll do the deploy in the next video, but it'll be a short one. So we'll see you there for the deploy. Bye.